I just want to tell you about this book. It's a Norwegian book, sorry, international guests. But there are 2 articles in English, actually. Exactly. Well, it's a book called Scenekunsten og de unge. And it's an anthology written on the occasion of Scenekunstbrukets 20th anniversary. Yay! It's a fantastic book. It's both an archive of old performances. Look closely, you'll find me. it's also a lot of photos, but there are also a lot of articles discussing what we are discussing today. How to reach young people, how to make art for young people. So I encourage you to go and talk to Anki. Anki, where are you? Anki? Afterwards, and sign up for it. And she will bring it tomorrow. Much easier than ordering it online or getting it in a bookstore. I don't even know if you can, but it's a fantastic book. So that was, you can take a look at it. I'll put it over here if you want later. Okay, so here we go, part 2. And yes, we're going to hear from Sadler as well in a moment. But first, part 2 is called Art, Programming and Marketing. A balance and collaboration. So, how do we best present dance? And how do we communicate dance performances to the audience? So, how to do this? And we have 2 great speakers from England. And the first one is Eva Martinez from Sadler's Wells. She is the artistic programmer and producer at Sadler's Wells. And she is also an independent performing arts curator, producer, and consultant. And she has told us that her areas of interest in her career are artistic innovation and artists' development, as well as communication and language. Because she is Spanish, but brought up in France. Yes, and now she lives in England. So there you go. 3 good things. So welcome, Eva Martinez.
Thank you. Okay, so that's a nice introduction, thank you. And I'll just have to say thank you to Liva and Lisa actually for giving us a chance to share our expertise. It's quite a strong contingency of people working in the UK. We've got 20 minutes, you have to help me keep time. And because I come at this from an artistic programming point of view and a curator, I want to take you through the journey of Sadler's Wells and give you an invitation to steal, which we'll talk about later. But first, a little video.
The historic site on Rosebery Avenue in London is home to Sadler's Wells, one of the world's leading dance theatres. There's been a theatre here for more than 330 years. And today, it's the ultimate destination for dance, a place for people who want to experience the power of dance in a welcoming environment. Sadler's Wells commissions, programs, presents and tours more dance than any other organisation globally. We also put on shows in the Vivian Baylis studio and in our West End home, the Peacock Theatre, and plans are underway for a 4th space, so we can present an even wider range of dance. More than 500,000 people fill our theatres each year, and audiences continue to grow.
The standard of the choreography and dance here is always amazing, so it's great to come to Sadler's and see good dance. Yeah.
Dancing is amazing.
Coming to everyone. What you want?
Sadler's Wells presents work by the best companies and artists from around the world, and we also commission and produce new work, and have helped to bring more than 90 new dance works to the stage over the past decade. Our productions have travelled to every corner of the globe, reaching new audiences and celebrating London and Sadler's Wells as a global centre for dance. Artists are at the heart of Sadler's Wells.
I think it's always very important that an artistic venue has artists in it making work. We have lots of choreographers here who call Sadler's Wells their home, they use the rehearsal spaces, and it's a vibrant, creative place.
Sadler's Wells has 16 associate artists and 3 resident companies, representing some of the most exciting talent working in contemporary dance today.
Being an associate artist at Sadler's Wells, the first thing that it gave me is an amazing support and a sense of belonging to such a central place, to the kind of mecca of dance in London. There is a buzz, there is a good energy about the place.
Sadler's Wells is here to create and present the best dance in the world. We invite every kind of style of dance, as long as it's the best, as long as it's new. Anybody is welcome here.
Sadler's Wells is also nurturing the next generation of talent through the New Wave Associates Programme, the Summer University and the Wildcard series. Making world-class art involves taking risks and exploring new possibilities. So we run the Gerwood Studio at Sadler's Wells to develop ideas for new collaborations between choreographers and artists from other fields, including art, design, music and theatre. We give artists creative freedom, and in return, they create bold and ambitious work that captures the imagination of audiences in London and around the world. Our creative learning and community programme involves the widest possible public in the life of the theatre. We present work on our main stage with large groups of non-professional performers using dance to have a positive impact on people's lives and well-being.
I just love to dance, like it's a way of expressing like all my emotions and letting everything out.
The Company of Elders is Sadler's Wells' resident over 60s dance company. It was established 25 years ago and has performed across Britain and internationally.
We had so much provided for us. Look at this wonderful studio that's around us. Where would we meet this? And look at the top-class choreographers we have.
Sadler's Wells also hosts the new National Youth Dance Company, bringing together some of the brightest talent from across England to work with our associate artists to create fresh new dance. Sadler's Wells' success relies on the passion and generosity of our audiences and many other people and organisations. It's this support that ensures the show goes on at Sadler's Wells every night, almost 365 days a year. It's an exciting time for dance, and for Sadler's Wells.
I think that the future of dance is very rosy. People are coming here in large numbers, and I see that ever increasing in the future. I really think that dance is the art form for now.
There you go, now I can go. I just wanted to give you a sense of what we're like, and I think, as Ingrid was saying, this is actually available on our website, so if anyone who wants an introduction to what we do usually watches this. It goes on to describe who are the different associate artists, but I'll speak about that later. And it was really important for me to show you video, which I will do a lot today in terms of how we communicate. I think video is one key thing for this medium, which sometimes can be difficult to express in words. But this is what I was saying, it's the same idea as Lieve. I don't know if you've heard of Austin Kleon from Texas, his wonderful book called Steal Like an Artist. I highly recommend it. So today, again, to remind you to have permission to steal from Sadler's Wells and other people. So I thought it'd be nice to talk about time, because as a lot of the presenters today mentioned, the duration of an organization and the impact that you have is really strengthened by how the longevity and how long you can actually do something. I think Frédéric was mentioning the political impact of 30 years in France, of which I'm a direct product of having grown up in France and having started dance very much because of outreach there. The interesting thing about Sadler's is it's been in existence for 300 years. It started off with water, hence the name, the well of water. And it was really, if you imagine, for 3 centuries it was a place for people to come and enjoy themselves. It was really well known in the 18th century for getting drunk at, which created a lot of trouble. And it was rebuilt 5 times. The site that we have now was built in 1998. And we're looking at expanding with a new theatre in the area where the Olympics started in 2012, what happened in 2012. It really got quite interesting when women get involved in the 1930s. This is Lillian Bayliss, who was at the time a really early producer. In 1935, she was working at the Old Vic, which is on the other side. Sadler's Wells is in the north of London. The Old Vic is in the south. And she was very strong in the belief that great art should belong to everybody. And she amazingly started to do something that we do every day now. She invited an artist to come in. She invited Inette de Valois, which together they started 3 of the biggest institutions in the UK now. Really, they started what is now the Royal Ballet at Covent Garden. At the time, it was called Sadler's Wells Ballet. So they started the English National Opera House together, English National Opera rather, which was called Sadler's Wells Opera, and the Birmingham Royal Ballet, which they started together. So quite an impressive track record for early producing women in dance. So ever since then, the theatre carried on, and in the 70s, it started to decline a little bit. And what happened was that financially it was a harder time in the 80s and for the arts, without mentioning anyone. And obviously, it also artistically had to rent, and therefore started to have a completely different program. So even though we built a new shiny theatre in 1998, thanks to a lot of lottery money, which is a way that the UK taxpayer gives money to the arts, this is what it looks like inside. This is the main house, 1,500 seats. This is what's happening by 99. No artistic imperative and clearly dwindling audiences. The audiences were reaching 30% capacity, and at one point it was touch and go whether Sadler's Wells would actually carry on. So the key change really happened with someone who was already working within the organisation, Alistair Spalding, who was working doing my job at that time, and in 2004 was appointed as, quite crucially, artistic director, but chief executive as well. And in an institution of that size, it's quite rare that you have the CEO, the business hat, and the artistic hat on the same head. And I think it's quite an important part of the success of Sadler's Wells nowadays. This is the press conference in March 2005, where Alistair talked about, like Stefan said, the vision for a national dance house. I think what he came to realize is all the other art forms had a centre which enabled them to leverage a lot of public money, but dance didn't really have a focus, or at least not contemporary dance, because of course the Royal Opera House is the primary client of the government in terms of public money. So it was really a vision to create something like a national theatre, but of course without a lot of subsidy. So there's the challenge. To remind you as well, straight away he invited artists to work with him. So when he made the press announcement, you have very young Stevie Larwin, Akram, John Zidi, Mark Baldwin, oh my God, Matthew Bourne, I couldn't recognize him. Wayne McGregor and the Pet Shop Boys. So straight away he invited 5 artists to be part of this house and to start to work together. And I think that's quite significant. In terms of the context, now, I don't want to spend too long on that, but it is valuable, like everyone did today, to give you a reminder of where dance sits in the pie charts. So we're in theatre land, the country of Shakespeare, where word is really valued, and you can see that actually dance doesn't fare too bad. It's really increased its portfolio in terms of the Arts Council. So that's good news, although bad news may be coming, like Derek was saying. However, in terms of the impact on us, we only get 9% of our funding from the Arts Council. So how do you build a national dance house with very little subsidy? Well, through a clever mix of programming, which is what I want to talk to you about. And also, just going back to the other slide, dance is actually the fastest growing art form in the UK. From all the different statistics that have come up, both from really hardcore box office statistics and from the government statistics, in 2001, the Arts Council announced that there was overall 13% of the whole of the UK population, because they gathered information from England, Wales, and Scotland as well, actually had attended or was attending dance. 13, which is a lot more than I think a lot of us expected. And Foundation for Community Dance, which is an organisation that represents the voluntary sector, participatory sector, and community dance, said that 10% of the population engaged in dancing as an activity across their life, which is a bit smaller, but still quite significant. And we've seen our audiences grow year on year. Just this year, I think the last figures was 12% for our audience from 2012 to 14. So, how do we make it happen? Well, this is what's happening currently, every Christmas. There is a tradition in the UK of the pantomime and Christmas shows, and this type of programming is actually crucial to how we survive financially. And I'll talk to you about how we do that across our program. But in a sense, this is a thought about how you think about popular work, and how can popular work in different ways for the most innovative work, which is where my area of expertise lies. So, I think what happens from that quote in '99, when the building was really the only thing we had and the vision was really confused, is that we had these kind of programming. So, companies who are based in the UK, who were showing their work, but also we had West End people, producers, actually bringing a show in, making quite a lot of money, but none coming back to our business, and kind of other hybrid shows, which also we hired in, but didn't really have anything to do with what we wanted to do. We were just using the space. It could have been a sports hall for that matter. What changed a lot is that most of the production which we have now, we either invite for a very clear reason, and artistically there's been a real refocusing on dance, or we actually produce them as well. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about how that change happened. So what do we actually do? We actually produce quite a lot of our work, which is one of the things I think James was mentioning with someone in the panel before. The minute you start to give yourself the means to produce the work that you want to share, things change. And I think it's been a really key part of the success of Sadler's Wells to actually not only present, host, and stop actually renting the space to anyone who will pay, but have an artistic policy, but also to start producing work and sharing it. And I'll share some stories about that in a bit. We work very closely with the associate artists to produce, and that's also key. Bring the artist in is really one of the big mottos, I think, from the learning from Sadler's. We host UK dance companies, we present a lot of international work, and very, very, very key is we are very broad in the dance style that we interact with. The criteria really is that something is being challenged in terms of either the form, the language, or the mode of presentation. So it's not strictly tango when we do tango. When we do flamenco, it's Akankan with Israel Galvan, and at times we put on really big focuses on all of these styles, but they all come in. So we don't exclude them, and that's reflecting of also where we are, which is London, with 8 million people from a lot of places. We do this in 3 spaces. So the main house, which is 1,500. We also have a studio named after the very clever Lillian Bayliss. And this is where we have more conceptual work, younger artists, and also work for children. It's about a 200-seat studio. And we also have the Peacock Theatre, which is completely in the West End, and that really functions commercially. This is where we have shows which are either produced by our own artists. This is from Zoo Nation, and this is Sæther La Main from Canada, where we do a lot of circus work. And this generates a lot of revenue for us. Now, we are a charity, and we are non-for-profit, so all of this comes back to the art, which is why I think it's a really good story to share. We also go off-site, we go outside of the theatre, like was mentioned earlier, and actually that's quite a big part of how we reach a new audience. And I invite you to really think about content that already exists, that you don't have to create, where you can take your work and put it out there, and suddenly, with very little effort actually, reach a new audience. I've got a short clip to show you that what we take there is extracts of work, which is very physical, relies on the music a lot, but to also show a complete diversity of styles. So I'm afraid I talk at the beginning of this video, so sorry about that. Slide it. No. Hi, I'm Martinez. I'm the artistic programmer and lead on the artistic development at Sadler's Wells, and I'm here at the Waterton stage, where we present a really exciting program of dance at the Latitude Festival. year for the 7th time. And this year it's actually our largest program. We've got over 50 performers coming to the water farm stage. And from this alone, the number of new audiences we got, we're still looking at the evaluation report, but it was quite impressive to see people from across the regions actually coming to London quite a lot after this festival. I might skip a few slides. This is just to show you how we do festivals, and actually this festival in particular is specifically curated to bring new audiences in. And when we create the program, the main thing is pricing, and then the amount of videos that we put online to get people to come. And it's called Sampled, because literally you sample quite a few different dance styles. It's incredibly popular. And then the Northern Light, which was actually a focus on the Nordic work, which we had just this autumn. I might have to skip showing you Breaking Convention, which has become such a massive, I know, it's become such a massive thing for us. And this is really, the question on here is, who can you give the keys to? Who can you give the keys of your theatre to, or your space, or your studio? Because this is what happened with Breaking Convention. Alistair literally gave me the key, and the whole culture just came into the building, from graffiti, from DJ, from VJ, from all sorts. It's a really inspiring project. If you haven't heard of it, there's a lot of information on our website, but it did change who came to our theatre and who returned to our theatre. Sorry, I'm skipping that one. Okay, because I want to get to this bit. So actually, interestingly enough, I was trying to find language to put on this slide, because we call our department the Creative Learning Department. And then I was thinking, oh, does this make any sense, creative learning? So I went back to an older terminology to remind, I guess, just to be really clear about what we do. And there's two sides to what we do in that work. One which is very much about bringing in dance into people's lives, so the outreach work which we do in the community in Islington, and it's been going for the best part of 30 years, so it's really embedded now. And then a form of work which is very different, which is about creating work together. And I'll show you an extract of something called the Sum of Parts that really shows all the different groups that come together on our main stage, if it works.
To sum the project up very concisely, there are a cast of almost 150 people who range in age from 9 to 90. Huge range of abilities. The project brings together 6 of our resident companies and puts them to work with the community groups to produce what we hope will be a very unique result.
Why get involved in a project like that? Because it's fun. And it's inspiring, it's a great project for the dancers.
Working with children and with senior people, I think it's lovely to see the whole spectrum of life performing together.
I'm going to be dancing in Tanzhaus on the main stage. Excited.
Today it's a bit manic. All the groups are coming together, so I think it's about 130 people. It's a bit hectic, but it's fun, it's good.
Something I've learned from this project is don't be afraid to try anything, really give everything a full shot, and don't be afraid to express yourself. Even amongst a group, really find your own voice within it.
If one day I had a really stressful day and I'm really angry, when I dance I let out that anger, and then it's just about showing people what you can do and just having fun, really, being yourself. Yeah, just to go onto that stage and to feel the energy from the audience, it was just packed. And I think also something about having such a huge company of people from experiences, age groups, there's something really special about that.
Right. I think that speaks 5 minutes, yeah. That speaks volume. I just wanted to show you that. So this is the area that I really work on, which is nurturing artists and investing in the future of dance in a different way. This is fairly new for Sadler as well. We've been investing in our associate artists quite a lot, but looking at the next generation is also really important, and we've just started to do that. Let's have a look at, this is 1 minute. Can I do that one? Yeah. Yes. This is working with Jonathan Burrows for our summer university. We've done that for the past 4 summers now. We're hoping to get funding to do more.
Been really enjoyable, really quite intense. Very intense, very stimulating.
It's been intense.
We've been really busy every day. I've really stretched to capacity.
So the first week was more like getting to know each other, seeing who is in the room, what knowledge we bring to this, and the second week was really interacting in a way that pushed people more.
I always find the pressure there's a deadline, there's always a bit of a product line in terms of how I work. So I just like the fact that it's just been about this discussion, exploring, exchanging.
The fact that we had very different visitors from different fields into these 2 weeks, it was very special for me.
It feels like there's a wealth of kind of expertise, which is really nice because there's a kind of respectful attitude towards us as emerging artists, which is very valuable.
This project is particularly special because of the fact that this group of people will carry on for so long, but also with gaps in between.
Even just thinking that we will all be making work in 4 years is already like an active phase for us, which is fantastic.
I'm really looking forward to seeing who we all are in 4 years' time.
68, 70, 90.
And they are still all making work 4 years after. So these are, a lot of them are younger artists that we support, but these are the associate artists that you will be familiar with. And by now there are 16 of them. 5 from the first stage when Alistair really launched that as well again. And we've been adding artists, and they all have different relationships with us. Some of them rehearse in our spaces, some of them don't. But the key thing is we always have a conversation whenever they want to make something new. And they don't have to make it with us, they can go and make it with other partners, but we're there at the beginning of every conversation. And it's given them an incredible strength. And in terms of marketing, of course, the brand association is huge for them in terms of them being able to get more funding. And that's something that is really worthwhile thinking if you have a structure. I might skip on the next thing because we've already touched on why producing. This really has been a massive change, mainly because it enabled to take artistic risk. It meant that collaboration happened that would not have happened, and one of them is coming to you in June. The next, one of the shows by Sidi Labisha, Kawi Eastman, Komilonga, which is a real visiting of tango, is actually coming to the Opera House here in June. And that was completely produced through us with loads of other different partners. It also brings an income because we tour it. The figures are staggering. I won't bore you with them now, but because there's quite a few of them. Let me go skip this. That's the show. Now, let's finish on the audience. We're very lucky. We've grown an audience over time. There were times when things were bad, 2005, 10 years ago, wasn't so rosy, but we've really grown an audience. We have 500,000 people coming through one way or another, and the capacity is fantastic. And I work there, you know, I've been there for a year, and every day when I leave at 7 and I see people come in floods, I'm still surprised to see such eagerness to engage with us. And this is why Alistair was saying that the future is rosy. And how do we reach our audience? Well, the main thing is this. This is our website. This is our other venue. I don't know how many of you have been on our website if you've not been to us, but this is the place where everything happens. And all of the videos you've seen are here. Pricing is a massive thing. We discount our tickets a lot, and we really make sure that a lot of tickets are affordable. So if you have to buy them quick because they go fast, but this is very popular. If you get your audience to try one thing and try something else, it's a huge way to grow your audience, which is a very obvious thing to say, but for us it makes a massive difference. On marketing, I wanted to show you where we're heading with our branding, because we might talk about that later. This is what we look like at the moment, well, 4 months ago, which is, you can see loads of different styles, and you know, the logo of Sadler as well dotted around that tells you what it is, but a really huge disparity. And after a long process, we've now come to this, this is our first brochure. I can bring a whole lot with me in the plane, but you can have a look online. And there's a conversation to be had about how a brand can give visibility to the art form of dance, which is really politically what Alistair is really interested in now. Now that we have a venue that has got an audience and a real leverage with the numbers, how do we change the perception of dance and contemporary dance in particular? So for me, my last minute is about how I work. Pretty obvious, but those things are all interdependent. And when Lieve asked me to come and talk about what I do, I see myself working in all of those different areas. My title says that I work in programming, but actually not a day goes by that I'm not rewriting copy, talking about the edits on a video with the marketing team. I'll talk about family building here because it's really what it's about. There's a real family of support of different kinds, big and small, that come to Sadler's, and every night, at least once a week, you know, we have a list of who comes for the shows, and my colleagues in the development team will actually tell me who I need to go and meet and say hi to. Don't have to have a long conversation. It's not about pitching. I just literally am the face of Sadler as well, and I go and help by saying hi to people who might be interested in giving, who might consider introducing us to a partner. This is part of my everyday. And obviously this is what I do. I present the work as a curator in the different spaces. But just to say that for me they all go together. I've written about this next slide in the article, so I won't go in detail about those, but Lieve asked me to talk about how I see what I do. And these are the things that connect all of my work at Sadler as well and in other places as well. And obviously you have to have a bit of Pina. That's it. These are a few ideas to consider. Developing ideas with those you serve, whether it's the community, the artists, the funders, the partners. I think this message has been said over and over again. Consistency of experience every day does build the trust, and I think that's what enables you to grow. The variety that would mirror your audience. So wherever you are, mirror who are there, not just one single group, but open that up. And I think invest in the future. So this is what you'll need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva, and thank you also for showing us your videos, because we were also engaged, at least I was sitting there and jumping in my chair, seeing all those young people dancing and all the great footage. I think already there we know that's how important having a live website is. So now we've heard a lot from the presenters. Now we're going to hear from the artists. Obviously, not the artist herself, but her left hand, I can say. We have Kate Coyne here, who is, she was an artist. She's trained as a dancer, and she worked with a lot of great companies. For instance, DV8, Mark Baldwin Dance Company, Jeremy James Dancers, Martha Clark, and a lot of others. And now, 2 years ago, she retired from performing, and she's worked with the Freeze Foundation, but now she's working as a program director at Siobhan Davies Dance. So please welcome Kate Coyne, if she's ready.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. So I don't think I'm going to be ushered off the stage because everything has really been said. I don't want to bore anyone with going over the same old ground. So I'm going to try and keep it to the artist's perspective, but also a little bit of case study in there and history. So over the course of a career working in dance and performing, I've become increasingly interested in the changing landscape of how we present cultural activities, and how the distance between the artist and the audience is being challenged very much recently by both performers and their audiences. And I think we ignore that at our peril, really, because people really do want to get engaged. Audiences now desire much greater engagement, and research has shown that. And the contemporary patrons of the arts care much more about their experience, their access, and their understanding of the making process, and about the emotional, aesthetic and social functions of the venue than they ever did in the past. So whatever that venue is, whether it's a site-specific venue or a big house. I'm just going to take you through a little bit of history of Siobhan Davies Dance, which was founded in 1988 as a fulfilment of the choreographer's desire to create work that was much more intimate and personal. She had, previous to that, been touring with London Contemporary Dance Theatre on the Second Stride, and then setting up her own company in 1988. For over 10 years, touring to middle and large-scale venues, following the traditional pattern of seeing a dance on a stage. But a collaboration with commissioning and producing organisation Art Angel, 13 different keys. Here we are. Saw a shift in the way that Siobhan Davies was working. She was really excited by the proximity of the audience, how they could be both up close and also 360 degrees around the performer. And she could see how excited the audiences were to be that close. They could see the complexities of what a human being was doing in movement. Now, you can call it dance or movement, but they could see from any angle, removing the idea that what you see is chosen for you by the framing of a proscenium arch. And this was all incredibly exciting to see. It led on to other works in the same vein. This is still 13 different keys, and then this is from Plants and Ghosts, which was made in 2002. Sorry, the pictures aren't great because they were taken some time ago. So moving into a purpose-built home, which on this screen it's been elongated, so it's actually not that big. I feel like I'm competing with Frederick. But amazing architect-designed building by Sarah Wrigglesworth. In 2006, the company moved into the building. It was also a performance space. This is a big studio up here in the roof. So there was a huge high ceiling, and you could hang lights. The audiences could come and see pieces and workshop pieces, and this was all part of the excitement of how Siobhan Davies was working. But also, the move into the building fueled ideas of collaboration with visual artists, and the studios began a rolling programme exhibiting work from other artists and disciplines. Primarily, the exhibitions were set up to engage people coming through the building, dancers in particular, to have the idea that they could have a sense of what was going on in the contemporary arts sphere. So they weren't just making dance, they could be affected by what else was going on. But now we've found that it's become successful, and we encourage new people to come and see exhibitions within the building. And that in turn brings new audiences to see dance. And cross-arts conversations. So recent exhibition, this is Human Nature from this year. This is an artist called Daniel Logg, who had the idea of working within dance. He wanted to use the breath and the sweat from dancers as they were working in the studios to grow things. The whole theme of the year was horticulture. So to tie it all together, he had this amazing idea of the sweat collecting in a duct here and being trickled down, watering the plants as they went, and collected in a massive bowl at the bottom of the building, which was in turn used by school kids next door to dip jugs in and water the plants on the back. So there was this growth cycle. This is another artist within the same exhibition, Human Nature, Christian Kerrigan, first to bloom, last to leave, who again engaged the school children next door to watch. He had a camera positioned in the linden tree outside, which filmed constantly, and they were invited to come and see what was going on with the leaves and the nature, and respond during workshops into what they'd learned. Some of his work on the wall. So the programme has encouraged new visitors to the building who are interested in the horticultural theme, but who've left with a sense of how this connects to thinking about dance. So it's sort of small steps. Not everyone is going to suddenly jump up and do a dance class, but they have an idea of maybe their movement is some form of dance. We've done lots of workshops with older people who have been particularly interested in the horticulture programme, and that's been really successful. In turn, we partnered with the Garden Museum to do some workshops with older people and a couple of other institutions. This is another example. A strand of interest of Siobhan Davies is to cross-pollinate with other art forms, to share what they're doing, sharing completely different practices sometimes within the same space, to see what comes out as a sort of mixing process. This is the Royal College of Art working with us, doing a piece called Out of Practice, and it reflects that idea that two disciplines together might bring up a whole new bedground of something else. So in parallel to the director's work, her main work in the building programmes, are residencies, workshops, projects, classes and courses, with the aim being to encourage the community and other interested participants to feel confident, and I think that's a key word within this. It's about brokering a confidence in dance and what dance is, so it's not full of mystique all the time. To feel confident about engaging with dance, and the programmes are built around the choreographic interests of Siobhan Davies, to reflect her desire not to just work with steps or with set techniques. This is another Royal College of Art piece within the building on the staircase. And a third. So there are thousands of examples of artists working within the building over time, but obviously can't show them all. Some of whom have gone on to work continuously with the company. So interesting things. This is a residency programme that was set up with that idea of having a craft artist, Helen Carnack, with a dance artist, Leila Dalio, putting them in the studio together for a few weeks and seeing what came out. So the practice, I think, from all accounts, was very stilted at first, but it has developed the relationship into being a commission, and they are now touring this piece around a couple of venues in Scotland and in England. They've learnt about each other's processes and what they can carry forward into being a piece that people would like to see. And it came out of just playing in the studio. This is an example of some of our youth work. Some of these partnerships come up unexpectedly. At the moment, we're in a borough of huge regeneration, Elephant and Castle. So there are a lot of building works going on, and they want to, the people who are funding the buildings want to do something for the community. As we are there providing a service within that community, they have chanced upon dance as being a really good example. So this was completely subsidised by a landscape designer who is building in the area. Giving children a chance to see what goes on. Another strand of the activity we do is to teach teachers some ideas of working with choreographic ideas, so that teachers feel at ease with passing on some of those movement ideas within other curricula. So they might apply dance to a maths curricula to see how that can enhance things. And it's a confidence building idea. We also do workshops that run alongside Siobhan Davies' main work. This is a workshop, The Table of Contents, which was produced at the ICA in London. And the aim with that, in the spirit of outreach, is to help the invigilators and the producers at the venue to know what's going on and to be able to open up those windows for every audience member to understand what's going on. And this has been very successful. Once the invigilators are on board with what we do, we found that the audiences really stay. Let's put next. This is a very different example. Liver asked me to talk about maybe some other artists I've worked with, and this came out of a collaboration between the Tate Modern and Michael Clark in 2011. And the brief was to work with a large group of people. And quite an unexpected choice to choose Michael, who's well known as being a bit of a recluse and quite difficult to work with. So what was in it for him? Well, for him it was a chance to work with a huge number of people, but in the way that he wanted to work. So this was very much out of a discussion with the curators at Tate. How do you do something that's integral to the artistic process without compromising what you do? I mean, you could see the structure on the participants' bodies. They were all very well drilled in holding their feet together. So that's what Michael got out of it. He got to work with 90 people in a huge space, and it looked amazing. What did the participants get? The only stipulation for them taking part was that they should never ever have done formal dance training. So for them, the idea was to get to work with a massive choreographer without ever having danced before. Quite an exciting challenge, I think. And for the company members, us, there were 6 company members, and for us it was a huge challenge. Working with people in small groups who'd never done a step before in their lives was an amazing, brilliant challenge. It really taught every single one of us how to go back and think, what is dance? What are we trying to show people? You know, how do you open up those worlds for people who haven't danced before, or who are nervous about performing or even seeing dance? This project went on to be shown at Barrowland. This is Barrowland in Glasgow, where the participants, this is 2 years ago, are still in contact. The success was spread hugely by social media. There was a lot of word of mouth. All the participants spoke to their friends. The performances were completely sold out, and there was really very little advertising for it. It was word of mouth and social media, which is, I think, a very important thing going forwards for all of us. 2 minutes? Oh goodness, how did that happen? Moving swiftly on. So again, it went to the Whitney in New York for the biennial, where they cleared the whole floor, the 4th floor, for the dance performance. This is an example of Siobhan Davies' work. This is a piece called Manual, which I think you could say is another form of audience engagement. The process is the dancer Helka Kaski approaches an audience member in the gallery and asks if they will help her to complete a work. And if they say yes, she will lie down on the floor, and they will be asked to give her verbal instructions of how to get up. Now, if you can just imagine sitting there, if you were to instruct each other how to get up, you can see how detailed and complex that is when you're just using words. We take for granted how much we can do physically and how much we could show someone physically. So this has become a really interesting piece going around various galleries, and audience reaction is amazing because they get to work very closely with someone, revealing the sort of detail of human movement.
1 minute.
Yes! And then we're done. Sorry. So currently Siobhan Davies is only making work for galleries and museums and institutions. And the interest for her, if I can say it on her behalf, lies in the direct communication between the audiences and the performers. This is a piece called Table of Contents, where the audience is encouraged to gather around a table at the end of various sections and talk about what they've seen, how they perceive what is going on. And this opening up of conversations has been really interesting, and it's of particular interest to Siobhan. Also, when we're working with curators in these galleries, we have the chance from the very ground level to build up associated programs, which I think has become very important for us. We do film screenings and talks and workshops if they're appropriate, depending on what the curator would want. That's a really important thing. I can probably skip by this one. This is Yard at the Hepworth, which is a program we set up earlier this year for dance artists to meet curators and try and discuss from a very groundroots level what you need to work in a different situation. But we'll do that another year. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Very interesting. Now you cannot leave, but we have to rig the stage for the next panel discussion. But our dear moderator, Karene is pressed for time, so you can't use any time for breaking up. What you can do is you can stand up right now, all of you, where you're sitting. Stand up. Yes. And I will do this while we rig up back here. And let's just have a stretch, yes. Let's just stretch. Let's just really see how long you can get. Oh. And also stretch out to the side to see how far can you get. How far can you tap your mom? And look at where you're stretching. Look in the direction you're stretching. See if you can touch someone. And if you do, just be nice, be gentle. And also try to touch your toes. Can you touch your toes? Can you? Hello, toes. Hello. And we jump up and down. Woo. And if you let out a sound, because you've all been silent. Meeting people. An artist meeting his or her audience, a presenter meeting an artist. It's just about that. One person meeting another person. And then exchanging ideas and getting to know each other. That's it. We want people to know about dance. We want people to engage. And that starts with a meeting. So now we go into the next panel discussion. And for all you Norwegians, or can you please, if you see your name up here, you should come up and sit down. And I will meanwhile introduce Karene, who's there. She is our moderator. And Karene has been a dance professional for 30 years and worked with international forces for nearly 20 years. She was a founding member of the European Dansehouse Network and chair there from 2004 to May 2009. And she was also founder and the artistic director of Dansens Hus in Oslo until 2010. And now she is currently establishing a regional residency center in the mountain area of Valdres with Carte Dance Company. And you're also on the board here and there. Yes. I won't say anything more because you're pressed for time. So, welcome to the next panel.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. And I'm also an ecological farmer and beekeeper.
Yeah.
there's been a lot of talk about this today. So I thought I had changed profession, but maybe I haven't. It's all ecological. Permaculture, we're all doing permaculture. Johan, are you going to sit with your back to me like that?
Yes. I heard just the other day I look the same, actually.
I think that must have been after a long evening.
There's a saying in Persian that says the roses doesn't have front or back.
Oh, that's very good. That's nice.
See, it's all about agriculture and growth and food and nurturing and all of this. All right. This has been very interesting so far. Let's try and keep it interesting. And it was also interesting to prepare for this session because I got so many different, and I won't say conflicting, but different instructions about what we're going to talk about. So I think it just shows, and this feels very loud, is it okay? Yeah. And I think it also shows how wide this topic actually is, you know, what we actually want to talk about. And vi don't have Susanne. Og du står her. Her ser jeg stoler. Because I think what you represent is very important. And the reason I'm pressed for time is because I'm going to drive with a group of people up to this huge community of 800 people who is now establishing a residency center for dance. And yesterday I visited another lovely community with 4,000 people who has a dance school with 200 pupils. 4,200. So, very interesting. Okay. So the topics we have been given is how to create a greater space for dance in our society. What can a presenter of dance do to contribute to this? We have seen some examples of this. What is the role of a dance artist in this? We just saw some lovely examples. What is needed from the funding bodies? Obviously, there's not one answer to this. There are many answers, and they're all right. And finally, we see a lot of artists up here on the stage, which I think is very good that we get to this stage. And what you see here, this is the dialogue that happens all the time. All these kind of people talk together all the time. So we're actually just presenting it to the larger audience. There's been a lot of talk about the role of the programmer so far. And I'm asking myself, is this giving too much power to the curator? The wrong kind of power to give them the authority to define what outreach is? And I'm also wondering, do you have, as a programmer, and as we heard the previous talkers today, is there like a set of results that is expected from you when it comes to outreach? Or do you get to define what success is when it comes to outreach? Because as a programmer, you get funds and you need to answer for them by giving results back. Results are often defined as numbers, but it could be otherwise. Which is also reflecting on the question that what is needed from the funding bodies. Well, how is the definition actually going? I would guess that there's a process of defining what the results should be. And talking about this, this also brings us to context. You know, what is your local context? What is your demographic context? What is your cultural context? Obviously, just going from London to Oslo, the context varies enormously. And percentage-wise, we have a much huger audience than you guys do, although you have many more people, and so on. But of course, this is much more than numbers. This is about dynamics and dialogues. And a lot of people have been talking about dialogue with your local audience, your local people, your local context. I would like to get back to what the first speaker, Derek, said, talked about generosity. Let's have this little brainstorming with a lot of generosity. It's part of ecology, being generous. And we just heard also the necessity for kindness. I like that, to bring that up. So if we have generous, kind dialogue, I think we get very far. I'm not going to take up more of your time because I think this is more important to listen to these guys. I would like to start with Sunniva Steine, works for Jo Strømgren Company, who could easily be described as one of the most successful dance companies in Norway, and probably more than further in Norway. I'm just going to give very brief introductions, A lot of you will know the people, but if you want to add something, and I haven't presented you properly, please just add. Sunniva, we are asked to create a greater space for dance. Where do you think this is happening on the basis of the huge space for dance that you actually has? And how do you see the dynamics between the presenter and the artist in the role of developing this greater space of dance? Because you could easily say that you really has a huge space and he has a huge audience and it's very varied. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Yes, I think it's. I think I want to start with the word that you just gave us, the generosity thing. I think for us from the beginning, it's been important to, when we go around, we tour, we want to give something more than just a performance. Obviously, it's very expensive to tour, both for us and the presenters. So it would be kind of stupid use of money not to kind of do more than just a performance. I think so. It's been a very important part of our strategy from the beginning, and it's something that we really like to do. It's giving us enormously things back to do extra activities beside the performances. That's talks with the audiences, but and workshops. And we work partly through listening to what our collaborators need and want, and partly we invent our own projects where we engage in the local community in different parts of the country. For example, we have had a project in North Atlantic area, Greenland, Faroe Islands, Iceland, where we have developed a project which is mainly based on doing more interactive work with the local community workshops. So I think we have, as an artist company, we have a responsibility both to contribute what the presenter wants, but also I think it's important to invent own projects. Yeah.
And what do you get back? You said you get enormous amount of things back. What could you mention?
Inspiration.
Artistic inspiration.
Artistic inspiration, meeting, and also I think for we employ dancers, and I often really want to employ them more, because when they're not working with us, they work in a kindergarten, or they get money from NAV. And I really think of ways to have a longer employment period with them. So I think my dancers or actors who do the workshops, they really like doing this. They get more back to their artistic work, and they also have the feeling that they contribute, and of course they get more money back also, which is important. Yeah.
Thank you. Johan Fritzøe, creator, dancer, activist for dance for many years. He's been at it almost as long as I have. Still active. How can you make like a stretch of how you can see the development from when you started and the dance was a little baby, maybe a lot of the dance was a baby in Norway, and it's changed radically in many senses, but can you see like a development in this outreach arena as we're talking about today? What's your experiences?
I was in a way raised by reaching out in my sort of dance education. So my first work as a dancer was in Collage Dance Company, and we did programs also for schools. We did performances, we did like international corporations, but we also were always out on the both places. So that came quite naturally for me, but of course, and later it just grew as a way of continuing this sharing thing with many people, because this problem with that we didn't have enough audience was very fast coming forward to us young artists. So it was a part of our artistic expression was also to find new public, and then my work with the Coda Festival, and then my touring activity. One of my ways to keep the expenses down has been to dance myself. so it's quite practical in a way, and which I still do. And I just come home from a 2.5 months tour out in what I call the jungle. For I think sometimes maybe we have to sort of change the aspects, the way we think. And for me, like abroad is not England. Abroad is outside Ring 3. If I go abroad, like to England, I just end up in the same. Yeah, it's just outside Oslo in a way. That's abroad for me, because like if I go to England or to France or to wherever abroad, I just end up in the same social, cultural environment that I live in, and I tend to always, I know all the codes in that thing. So for me, like going abroad and making a sort of international career was like going outside Ring 3. and that's also where I have found my inspiration, like in communication with my audience, which has been mainly young people from 7 years till 16, but also their teachers. I have grown-up people usually, and like I say, also when you perform to children in combination with teachers, you also speak to a very important part of our population, because like teachers are also often very political active, so that I could sort of feel that I had a dialogue also in this small society, with all the small society, because after having performed, we could speak to people in the supermarket. So it was like, it was always a sort of just, for me it was just a natural way to communicate. Thank you.
And as, if I may call you like a pop-up artist, but not as most dance groups are, at least here, you have production money and then you pop up and do your thing. And very few have enough infrastructure money to just keep being active and visible all the time. Can you like meet the same people and see that it has been a development if you come back to the same place, or is it like a very hard for you in your role to see the continuing development of this added audience? No, it's Johan. I have a difficult question for you in a moment, don't worry.
I can make it up.
I think maybe things have changed, of course it has. But I think we also have new struggles all the time, and that is that even though the idea of dance is more known, that still that I think we haven't established the way to sort of suck them up into what we want, is to make them come to our shows and our festivals. Like we still have a missing link. I think so I guess that's why the Coda Festival is arranging this reach out so that we can find this missing link. Is that an okay answer?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's approved. Very good. No, thank you. No, because this is maybe what, the big difference between dance groups and presenters. One is ongoing, and the other one is whenever you have money. Susanne Ness-Nielsen, coming from the northernmost city in the world. I kid you not. Hammerfest. I've been there, it's fantastic. What are your reflections? Because your context is quite unique. And the dance community up there is very strong. And last time I heard about it, you had 10,000 people living there because there's an oil rig being set up, so now there are 10,000 people. What are your reflections from your standpoint of this very viable community in this really unusual place?
Thank you. Dansearena Nord being a regional dance center, we do not only operate in Hammerfest but in the whole northern Norway. And what's special about us is that we don't have our own venue. So whenever we present something, we would always do it in collaboration with other partners. For Hammerfest as a specific, one of the specific places to be, there is a history of dance there, and I think there's also quite a broad interest in dance, people wanting to be a part of it. But even still, it's very, very difficult to be presenting new material to people. People have a very set idea about what dance is, so if you put the word dance into a sentence, people's minds start to work and think about what's dance to me. And to a lot of our ordinary audience, if you say dance, they will be thinking of people in groups, usually moving to rhythmic music, being, or as a music video. And then they come into the venue, and what they perhaps will see is one or several people hardly moving at all, and the soundscape perhaps being something that sounds like you trying on your radio to find a radio channel, but it seems to them just as noise, and when they leave they will feel quite frustrated, perhaps.
So why do they come back then?
Sometimes they don't, I just have to admit. But I think the great task here is that when you do a program, or when you do present a show for an audience, you have to give them the right kind of expectations. I mean, you don't necessarily teach people what they're going to see, but you give them the right kind of expectations, so that their expectations are not in this direction, and what they are really experiencing is something quite different. And I think that is actually very, very crucial. So if you manage to do so, I think you can present a lot to the audience, but you really have to go through it in your head and also with the artist before presenting it to the audience. So it's the way of phrasing things we're doing all the time, and perhaps rephrasing it sometimes. That is also a part of the job.
Which is somewhat, if I understood you right, what you were talking about, and probably will go on about tomorrow, to communicate experience. More than it's today? Yeah. It's just that I have to... Okay, good.
Tomorrow for you.
Okay, so Stefan. At Tanzhaus. Are you awake? Did you get your coffee? At Tanzhaus, who has been in existence only 10% of the time of Sadler's Wells, but still is 35 years. And you have now, I know, 180,000 spectators a year. What is your success criteria for this communication that actually brings in 180,000 people per year? What's the thing?
Well, I think I have to comment this figure. No, first of all, I have to thank Karene because we brought the first festival for the very young to Düsseldorf because of Karene's initiative in 2008, and we did it till last year. Now we don't do it anymore, but not as a festival, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, the 180,000 is the figure which is in some papers. Should I count a little bit? No, we really have 3,000 people a week in the house because they take the classes, as I said this morning. And we have, in total, in the performance, in the theater with parties, we have 50,000 people a year. So you come up to this figure, but, well.
It's obvious you have some kind of communication success.
Absolutely, but it's different for the classes and for the theater. I think that's two different realms. And the strange thing is, not to disappoint you, but the strange thing is that in a house like we have, and who was there, he sees how close everything is to each other, but it seems a little bit two different areas, the class area and the theater. It has two lives, let's say, and there could be more connection between them, saying frankly that people who take the classes not necessarily watch performances. or not necessarily watch performances which are contemporary, or rather contemporary. If somebody takes a flamenco class or a jazz class, he might just do it for his own experience in the class, the social experience, the physical experience, the fun. So having a great teacher, it's different motivations what people make to take a class, and I think it's different motivations what people make to participate in a performance project, if it's a youngster or an older person. Success is relative, and for me, audience is a big issue in terms of theater, to get people to the performances. And it is a little bit simple if it's in terms of advertising, if it's a great picture, if it's a swan lake done by Dada Masila from South Africa, the house is full. It's a combination of things which attract the people. If it's somebody not known in town with a strange title of a piece, and the photo maybe is not very interesting for or getting right away the attention, it's really difficult.
But are you saying, and I think maybe not, but are you saying that it's only the marketing department that will bring in audience and not at all the school and the cafe?
No,
I don't think it is a, because outreach is more the marketing department.
Yeah, no, but I said that it's not so easy and it's not so obvious that things just work because they are there. I think what is important is to do very different, go in different directions, offer different things, open different doors, because people have different interests. If it's a youngster interested in hip-hop, I have to get him or her with a battle or something like that, and hopefully they come back in a fusion show or something. It's really to talk to people really in person, like the handshaking, what was written in the program. I think that's important too. I think that there's not one recipe. Then we would not sit here. Yeah. It's not so simple. I think we have to open a lot of doors. And being very attentive on what people want and why they are there or why they're not there. And that's the most difficult point. The thing what you said in your survey, why people are not there. That's and to change that's maybe too ambitious, but I think we have to think in that direction.
Okay. I agree, there's not one way. Human, you're now trying the other way by being the director. Before you were a creator.
Still are.
You still are, but now you're working as a director. And I think you were the first person I knew personally who just wouldn't stop talking about negotiation. How do you think that negotiation, if you want to allow that word, between the artist as a creator and the presenter curator who has to meet all the goals, and some of the things you're tasting now, you have to sell tickets, you have to do this. What do you think is the good negotiation between the artist who wants to keep his integrity and the program curator who needs to reach goals and maybe have a slightly different agenda? Is there a problem, or is it just finding a good way to play together?
I think it is a problem. Just to first of all, I deny to explain my job as selling tickets. So first of all, I just deny it. So, and this doesn't mean that I don't like to meet public, but I just deny it. It's not the way that I want to look at my public. It's never been looking at them like that. I would like to look at them as a person, which have personality, comes from places, thinking in certain ways, read some things, are busy with some stuff, or not busy with some stuff. So I deny to look at it like that. So I will go in boards and I will be in meetings like that as an artistic director of Carte Blanche and deny and saying it loud in the newspaper and everywhere that this discourse around public as numbers is not acceptable. So I'm just saying it now. We should discuss them in different ways. We should them, now we call them even them. So it's just like there is something with it. I could say experienced as an artist from when I started in 2000 there is a change of dialogue between me and a creator and programmer, from the point where we talk collectively about what is this idea and how could this idea grow and how could this be communicated and how could it be marketed, until I arrived to a point in the last 5 years where we don't talk about actually what we're going to do, but we're talking about how can we get public to see this. And I don't know how to get public to see anything when I cannot talk to you directly what it is. And we are using lots of words like market, product, blah 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 blah, and actually we are renting it. But actually we are not defining it. But actually, if we go in any advertising, good advertising agencies, they first work on defining what is the product, what is the need, is there a need? How could they create a need? Or, you know, sometimes there is a product which there is no need. So they have to create a need first. And I think in artwork, we just take the words and we like it and we run with it because it's what's called a certain mind masturbation and a certain kind of, how to say, political pressure, which in a way we just adapt into it languagely. So I don't look at my job, first of all, as selling ticket at all. I'm thinking we're an institution with the public money, which means we have a social role to play. And the social role is not only based on, I mean, I understand that politicians like the numbers, because that's how they get elected. And I understand that, that's fine. But that's not how our communication is. I mean, I think we have to discuss value differently. What is a value? What is the value of what we are doing? What is it for? Who is it for? Is it for society? Is it for the future society? Is it for the society now? So I must say there are changes that has happened basically. I have never met any artists who are not busy with meeting public. I only met bad artists which are not busy with meeting public. And the most arts that I've seen which are interesting, they always want to meet artists. I mean, that's why they do it. They don't do, I mean, amateurs do it for themselves. Professionals do it because they have a mean. And I'm professional, and I think I mainly know professionals. So, in this sense, I mean, there's a confusion in the thing, but I must also say that there is a... Now I'm going into the thinking mode. Because for me, I mean, just for me, I have decided to have more questions than answers for now, if you understand what I mean, because I feel there's too much unclear answers, just to make clear. I mean, I love Subtle Ways when you presented it, it's fantastic, but it's just commercial. And I understand it. No. I mean, I know for sure there's a kid there which hated that project, but I didn't see it in the video.
Define commercial.
No, I'm defining in the sense it's totally positively made. I have nothing against it, and I'm supporting it totally, and I respect it, and I will. It's not populist. It's just one-dimensional. It's one-dimensional presentation of what it is, and we see. You talked about Thatcher. Thatcher, in this sense, Thatcher maybe has won, in the sense that we all now working 5 times more with less paid, and we have to produce 50 times more, and that's okay. But let's just be honest about it, and that's okay. I'm not saying it's just, and I respect many things. That's why I'm saying I'm not here to attack things, and I decided when I took this job as artistic director to go in with more questions and more conflicts in myself as an artistic director than you know, snappish, what's it called? And I'm not saying you're snappy, just to say it very clearly. I know it came after, just to say it just came after.
I'm going to say something about this, I'm sorry, Uma, but
it's okay.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
It was not meant to attack. I know every time you see Iranian you think they attack, but we don't, really.
Can I just slink it? Because my question for you was,
yes, go on, then
what are your bad experiences? What are your don't do this at home things to us as your colleagues? And whatever.
In what capacity? Yeah.
I read your paper thoroughly before this, and I see you worked several places. There must be some real bummers. There must be some...
So not about specifically, just about my experience.
You as your capacity.
I feel burning to respond to Omar before, so can I come back to
you? Yeah, please do. Please ignore me if you feel like it.
I guess maybe, okay, here you go. One thing that, you know, coming from France, from the suburbs, going to La Villette when I was a teenager, coming from an immigrant community in France, then coming to the neoliberal place that is London and feeling very much at home there, bizarrely. I think one of the things that I would say I've learned is how quickly prejudice can come in, and how your own limitations, as we said this morning, how you can be your own barrier to that. And I think in any community, the beauty of it is it defines itself by believing in a sense of shared values. But very quickly those things can become a barrier, and I think a few people mentioned it this morning. That's probably one thing I've experienced in small, regional, tiny festivals of, run by 5 people, where I worked before in Nottingham, where we were doing only international work, bringing it literally handcrafted to people, to working at South Bank Centre, much more like La Villette. And it's very, very powerful how quickly you go into the thinking modes of each community. So when I was in Nottingham, I became super regionalistic and thinking about what the region needed and how those barriers were there. At South Bank Centre, I had to defend dance all the time against the visual arts, against music. And I became anti, because I had to defend myself for survival. So I think that's probably one of the things I would say to be aware of, is how quickly we take in the organizational values. And that's something I've negotiated at Sadler as well, because I actually benefit from the commercial aspect of Tanzhaus for the work that I do, because all the work with artists, what I do, is subsidized directly by the Christmas show that goes on tonight. And that's one point of having to be aware that you can take on those values, or you can do something with them.
And
short.
Very short. And I said to you, I will for sure steal anything that I think it works. So I am not, how to say, at the end there's a Persian carpet seller in me, which I would love to sell it, and it's not that. But I'm also busy with value. I'm just questioning, and I agree with you. But the political side of me and an activist side of me says, what is the values at certain when we put in the same society? The value of the shows and everything that you say you gained from economically, these are also having visual and political values. And I'm not saying I'm as conflicted as I can be. So I'm not saying I have any answers, but I say that there is a value that we are pushing in one side, and the other side we say this value wins it, why can't we just use it? And this is my political problematic, because I see part of when we get public money, there is also a certain responsibility towards a society which is bigger than the regime, bigger than any individual of us, and it's about a bigger being. And maybe that's why I'm questioning it in this manner. I'm not only questioning it as like the little small world.
So, Kate, now because I really want to get through all the panelists, I was trusted with a huge, wonderful panel, so we want to hear all of them. How did that happen?
Can I have 2 more? No, just
Kate, I would like to ask you, as then, from the artistic side, the creative side, do you find it problematic adapting what you do to the context and need of this outreach aspect of your work, or is that just a fluid transition? It's part of the artistic work, or were you ever asked to do something as a company that you really wouldn't do, but you ended up doing because it was necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. I think many experiences in dance companies where you get sent out to go and teach some children and you're not prepared. They might be children with special needs and you haven't had preparation for that. I think things like that, luckily, are well in my past, because when we do things with Siobhan Davies Dance, we think very much about the context, and it all comes from the programme and from the artistic integrity of what the director wanted in the first place. If it doesn't fit the programme, if our outreach does not fit with our ethos and our programme, we don't do it. We're in a position where we can choose to do those and justify them, but it's got to start from the artistic integrity. I've been too many times in a situation where it doesn't, and it's no good for anyone.
And then the programs will respect your decision?
Yes, one would hope so.
They have to, because you walk away.
Yeah.
Okay. Because this is a very important part, the integrity of the artist, because this is what we live by, in a way. Sorry, it's going to be a little short. I'm pushing a little bit, and maybe we have 3.5 minutes. Anna, as Panta Rei, because she has a lot of hats, she's a very dynamic person, who has just been giving Panta Rei Dance Company, been given a lot of money for regional development. And I know it's very early days. Can you give us a little outline, perhaps, of how you see this outreach part in your work? I'm sorry, I have to repeat the word short. Sorry.
Yeah, I might need to say something about the framework of the totality of the project to explain the outreach part of it. But the company's got funding from a funding bank called Sparebankstiftelsen to create projects in 3 different regions on the east side of Norway. It's Østfold in 2015, then it's the inland in 2016, and then it's Buskerud, and possibly reaching a little bit into Oslo in 2017. And throughout those 3 years, we'll be collaborating with 3 different regional theatres to produce professional work. And the aim of the outreach project is that it's going to be artistically and technically related to the professional productions. And it's going to reach the wider society in which the production is touring. That's the short version.
Sorry, short is good. And what's the main identity of the outreach aspect of your work? Do you know yet?
What we're aiming to do?
Yeah. Do you know it?
Well, there's... maybe I can just give a story, because I think that gives a better image of what we're aiming for. And that is that we had an experience a few years back, which is sort of continuously giving us reason to continue working the way we're doing it. And first of all, I have to say that it's a great inspiration from England, of course, and my boss from the past is standing over there. I just have to give her credit. She inspired me a lot. But we had a story, we went in and worked with a group of boys between 13 and 16 on the same artistic ideas as the professional work that they were going to see, and we decided to do an experiment. We showed the same professional production before and after we'd worked with them. And they had never had any experience with dance before. They were ice hockey players and footballers, predominantly. We had great fun with them. We created work with them. And they got to see the same production before and after we'd worked with them. And there was a spontaneous reaction from one of the boys who came up to me after the second time he'd seen the performance, and it was the exact same performance. And he came up to me and said, "Anna, why couldn't you show me this in the first place? It was so much better." And you know, I had to discuss with him for quite a while to make him realize actually this is the same piece. And that's just an image of why we want to continue doing the things we do.
Very beautiful, yeah. Good. And Margit, last but not least, did you get any inspiration?
A lot.
What are your challenges as a national dance house with a huge responsibility and not enough staff? Believe me, I know it. And a lot of enthusiasm. What are your main challenges and perhaps visions?
I think I have to start with the visions, because when I started 4 years ago, I was because I'm an artist myself, and I thought that wow, in Norway the contemporary dance field have such a strange reputation. It's like something really dark that you do in small dark places and nobody understands anything of it. And I thought, okay, I wanted to make the dance important, to make it relevant and to connect it to the society. So we started out with having debates and panel discussions and talks, and pre-talks and after-talks and all that. And we do have what we call I call it strategic programming. I wanted the house to be a place for every age group and every culture, and that it should be mirrored in the audience, just like Eva Martinez talks about. And of course, looking at you guys, these two venues are very strong, has been a very strong inspiration source for the Dansens Hus, and I think also perhaps for you, Karene, because you started out and were collaborating with Tanzhaus Düsseldorf in the European Dansehouse network that we founded. So we have some friends that have done this a little bit before, but I think my vision was to try to make it more important, to connect it to the society.
Good answer. Yeah. I asked one question nobody answered, and I'm going to be bold enough to repeat it. and I'm looking at our UK friends over there, perhaps our German friend. Who defines what a good result of an outreach program is? Do you define it yourself? Or do
I was
you
actually
get...
thinking about that earlier. Yeah. I tried to share something about that in the paper actually, because the team, my colleagues who work on that looked quite hard at that, and they decided that they needed to work with the university who could find a framework that would help them. And actually the answer wasn't a framework that existed in the arts. It was a framework that existed for the measurement of well-being in different types of societies actually. I think I tried to share that information because that's quite an important one. How do you evaluate it? I mentioned it in the paper. They work with Goldsmith and the new Economic Foundation, which established a set of criteria that you can apply to very different activities. So no one had thought about applying that to the arts. And it does evaluate over time, it's quite a longer framework, the impact on criteria that define a change in well-being and self-esteem, basically, on the participants. So that's a very, very key criteria for the work that we do. Obviously, as we're a ruthlessly commercial organisation, we also really want people to come to the main stage. And I would say the creative team really wants to be visible. For them, success is visibility also. So being on the main stage alongside great other artists, not separate, but in the same evening, that's success for them. And you've seen from the reaction of people, that's also success to them too. So these were my different thoughts. Thank you.
Did you want to add something, Kate?
No, I'd just very briefly add that sometimes the way you evaluate is decreed by the people who are funding. If, for instance, a lot of our outreach projects are funded by people like Paul Hamlin Foundation, who have a lot of money and they have very strict criteria about what they want back from it, so that's how it's done. Whether it is important long term or not is not for us to decide.
Yeah, did you want to define the success of outreach?
Actually, I think it was really interesting what Lee wrote in the articles, that we don't have that word in Norwegian, and neither do we have the dance development. It doesn't exist. So it's like, going to China and the word of improvisation doesn't exist. That doesn't mean the Chinese doesn't improvise.
Yeah.
So. But I wanted to say, because you asked me about the challenges, and that is because I'm an artist, I thought it would be really easy. How difficult can it be, bringing 600 in the audience? Piece of cake, I thought when I started. It's not. The challenges is the hard work. It's very much hard work, and I have stuff in the audience here. It is. It's a lot of work, and it takes time, and I think we have to be patient.
Okay.
And who's going to have the success? Is it the houses or is it the artists?
This is your question for the next panel, the next part, because I'm being told we're running out of time. Of course, you're going to be here this afternoon and tomorrow. There's a lot of food there. Yeah? I hope you get time to get a little closer to some answers. Thank you very much for being here. I wish we could have had at least 1 more hour with all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.